Welcome to Game of Roses. We have a very special episode for you today. Someone here with us is very special. 143,000 Instagram followers, 11.8K TikTok followers. This is a veteran of Love Island USA Season 5. This is a veteran of the Traitors Season 2. Carsten Bergersen, a.k.a. Bergie, a.k.a. Burgerlicious. Welcome to the show.
Let's go, guys. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm just excited to talk about whatever we're going to talk about.
So are we. You have no
That's
idea.
The Burgerlicious we know. Thank you so much for joining us. I was such a big fan of yours on Love Island, and we were very excited when you got cast on Traitors as well. But first, we want to talk about Love Island. Did you have any idea when you first performed this benevolent self-elimination in the first Love Island vote that after being dumped, you're going to have the first ever hideaway overnight threesome redemption tour?
I had absolutely no idea. I walked into the villa that day. I was a little nervous, and then I met with Anna. I was standing on that heart, and I was just like, Anna and I were already having a conversation, and it's just like, yeah, I know she's not feeling it, and I know I'm not feeling it. So now this is just awkward because now we're supposed to share a bed tonight. And then I was kind of talking to all the other girls throughout the day before we even got to the fire pit elimination. We won't even talk about my kiss. That was embarrassing in itself. But it was.
Hey, if you want to, you brought it up. We can talk about it.
We're just gonna keep going. And I was just like, my person's not here. It'd be selfish for me to stay. I need to get the hell out of here. I'm just gonna keep publicly embarrassing myself on national television. And I remember packing my suitcase, and I was walking out the door. And they don't reality TV magic is sometimes you don't see behind the scenes. They made me shoot me walking down the hallway 3 different times. So I'm
wow.
I'm already eliminated.
They were like, can you look sad?
Yeah, just stuff like that. So I then had to you walk down the hallway with your suitcase. All right, let's go do it again. So then I had to do it again, and then I did it a third time. And then I was doing my exit interview, and then I got the text, and I was like, I wasn't excited, but I was super nervous about it too, because I was like, oh my gosh, I just publicly embarrassed myself. Everybody's gonna see this in 2 days. My family's gonna see it, and now I have to leave. And I wasn't sure where episode 1 ended. I thought episode 1 didn't end until everyone saw me go back to the hideaway. I didn't know that was the cutoff of the episode was me leaving that night before I got the text. So that was cool to come out and see that's how they ended the first episode.
You got the cliffhanger of the first episode.
Yeah.
You're basically a star.
Basically, I became the
Right
main character of the show without knowing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let me back up a little bit. How did you get into reality TV? And did you watch a lot of reality TV before you were cast on Love Island?
Oh, this is kind of embarrassing. So back in December, so this is December of 2022, I just got done. I remember taking my histology exam. It was the last final I had of that semester. I went and worked at Dairy Queen, and it's Christmas time. I'm like, dang, I'd really like a Christmas date. And then I had Malibu and Coke, and I was drinking Malibu and Coke, and then I was on Netflix and I saw the first season of Love Island, and I watched the first 2 episodes. It's screw it, how do I get on Love Island? So then I started filling out the application, and Love Island has 105 questions, so I sat there and I probably got to episode 10 of Love Island, so that means it was probably 8 hours I sat there filling out this 105 question packet, because I honestly went through it and actually answered it. And I think when I was talking about the interview process, application process, a lot of people just do what's your dating life like? They'll have a 1 sentence answer, and I was writing a paragraph for each one. So I think that's what really helped me get into the next step. And then I forgot I applied, actually. So then I went back to work. I went back to school. I also applied to the Bachelor that night. I applied to Too Hot to Handle. Thank God I didn't get on that show, because I would have been great at it. No sex, just living my normal life on an island. But yeah, so
that's my main thing I'm good at.
Yeah, so it's December, and then I get a call in March, and I haven't watched Love Island since that one night. I watched the 10 episodes. I watched it, and I was mainly filling out the application. I wasn't even watching the show. And I get a call from the head of casting of Love Island, and she's like, "Hey, we saw your application. Would you do a casting video for us?" And I was like, holy crap. I even forgot I applied, and I'm like, okay, now I need to do this casting video, and then I need to start watching Love Island. So I watched like 4 seasons of Love Island before I went on my season because I
Nice.
had no idea what I was in for when I was going through the application process.
Yeah. No,
If it makes you feel better, I watched all of them and accomplished nothing, filling out no casting application or anything. I've watched hundreds and hundreds of hours at this
Well,
point.
what?
It's such a good
I was
format.
going to say same with Ariana Maddox, and now she's the host.
Yeah. What you said
Let's
that you
go.
applied for The Bachelor?
Oh, I applied, well, The Bachelorette, but yeah.
Bachelor. What season? Do you remember who was
Well,
the Bachelorette
so
that
it
season?
would have been like the 2022. Like, and with the Bachelorette application, it was 5 questions. What's your Facebook? What's your YouTube? What's your Twitter?
Uh-huh.
And then like 2 other questions. So it's like, I feel like you need to be a little bit more relevant than my 400 Instagram followers that I had at the time. You know?
I don't know if that's true on Bachelor because they definitely
Yeah.
cast people who have little to no social media following and all that. But that's interesting. So, would you have been? Who was 2022? Michelle Young?
Well, I think it might have been 2023 because I was December of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe you would have been on Gabby, Wendy, and Rachel Recchia's cruise ship.
Yeah, I think it's that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
what?
I
That
think
was,
you,
you dodged a big
I
bullet
think
there.
you- yes, exactly.
that season was a disaster.
I know.
I think Love Island was the right step. And were there any people when you were going back doing your hyper binge of Love Island where you were like, I want to emulate that character, or like that seems like a good strategy or anything like that?
This might sound a little egotistical, but I figured my personality would be like people would like that, you know. And I dug into it a little bit more when I was in Love Island. Like, yes, I've kissed girls before, but like I was like, this is gonna relate to so many more people if I ask for kissing advice. Like I knew that in the moment. I'm pretty sure they aired that. I still haven't watched my season, but like when I was in the room with the guys and like, how do you guys kiss a girl? Like, what's your go-to? I figured that would relate a lot more to the audience back home. So I was playing.
That sounds familiar. I think they put that in.
Yeah. So like I was like, I knew who I was, and I was like, I'm going to use that to the best of my ability because like I can relate to a lot of people out there.
Yeah. Interesting. If you could change one thing about the format of Love Island, how they put the show together, what would you change about it?
Ooh, what would I change? I think they have to redo it all because I was someone that went in there, and I think they kind of changed the show format for me when I went in because I knew exactly what was going to happen. Because out of the Love Island contestants, not all of them watched like 4 seasons like I did, so I knew like the first challenge is always the kiss and blow challenge, and I said that to production before I went in. And what did? They said, let's do a day 1 elimination instead. And then I was like, oh, the next one's going to be the girls saving the guys in a challenge. And like, it was the Raiders of the Lost Spark, if you remember that. And that's when Carmen ended up picking me over Victor, and that caused all that chaos. And then, then it's like the guys saving the girls. And then like, it's always the same challenges. And like, they always do the same format. Like if you watch the show before, you're seeing the same show again, just different Islanders.
Yeah.
So you were
and
gaming
you know
it.
when to expect Kazam, or you know at what point each thing
So,
happens. That, I mean, in my mind, I'm watching it and I'm like, oh, it's random. It's just whatever producers want to do to, let's have a vote for the public vote. But it makes more sense that it's actually following a pretty tight script.
Yeah, it's got its rhythm. Like, and I knew the rhythm going into it too, but I think I don't know, but I felt like production was also saving me. And I could feel that I was a fan favorite because they went straight to the public vote. And in normal seasons of Love Island, it's always like the musical chairs. It's like the girls pick the guys and the guys pick the girls. And like towards the end of the season, like week 4, week 5, or whatever, or week 3, week 4, then the public starts voting. But right after that, they started having the public vote. And I was like, they're changing me up this year. And I feel like they're trying to save me here because I've got nobody.
Interesting. So you had a very good game sense in that show almost immediately. You had done your research. You knew what the format of the show was. That's in Bachelor world. We call that being a professional player. But you could also feel the edit kind of moving around you and that the producers were navigating you this way and that way. Do you think the other players that you were there with that season had that much game sense? Or do you think you were kind of above them a little bit?
I was so ahead of them. They would come to me like, what's next? Like, when's this Casa Amor thing you're talking about? When does that happen? I'm like, gonna happen
Oh
soon, but it's not
God.
like, yeah, like I'm like, that's like 2 weeks away. Just wait till Casa Amor. You're gonna be challenged. Like I knew it. Like I knew the rhythm.
So because you have a sense of when Kaza Amor is coming and you maybe warn the other people, are they having these conversations of like, okay, what is our strategy going into Kaza Amor? Are we going to be open? Are we just going to pick a new person?
Yeah, I know Carmen and Kenzo had a conversation about it because I talked about it with Kenzo, and then he pulled it for the chat the same day as Casa Amor, which was pretty like crazy
Mm,
because I wasn't expecting it. I thought I was going home before Casa. I thought like my time is up. So like for them to throw
Yeah.
in Casa with the most girls ever, I was like, okay, they are throwing me the biggest bone that I could ever have. If I don't
yes.
get a girl in Casa more, this is going to be like the biggest Love Island failure of all time because like they threw like that was the end of the girls coming in this season. Like that was it. They threw all the girls
Yeah.
at me before they closed it. So yeah, there was a lot of conversations. Like I'd be like, okay, this is probably what's going to happen next. There's probably going to be a public vote. There's probably going to be this kind of vote. Like I just kind of knew what was next.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm very impressed because I would say, as someone who did watch your season, it comes off more like you don't really know what's going on and you're like an underdog and more of a what we call a 4TRR player, which is for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're, I'm going for love. I'm not just gonna be with someone just to pair off and stay in the game. So I understand why you were a fan favorite, and that's an interesting thing about Love Island is that you can get that information while you're shooting it, as opposed to these other shows where you have no idea how you're going to come off until it comes
Yeah,
out.
well, and like I really didn't know I was the fan favorite, but I could just feel it, like because I knew the format of the show. Like past seasons, it's like okay, I'm gonna be gone tomorrow. Like I should have been gone night one if they really wanted to get rid of me, and you could just
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel it that I was still there. Like we sent a couple home before I went home. Like I'm single,
Yeah.
and we sent a whole couple home before they were gonna send me home. So I was just like, there's a reason I'm here, and I'm just sensing it's the public. I'm like a fan favorite right now.
Are
You're
there
like, it's so weird. All the girls in Kaza Amor are from
Yeah,
Minnesota.
or like Wisconsin. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Wisconsin.
how do you get a good sense on Love Island like pretty early on how much power the producers have to orchestrate these various scenarios or pit players against each other or whatever? And are there certain producers that you kind of maybe quickly get an idea like I shouldn't be talking to this person's not good for me, this person is there kind of a hierarchy that you start seeing develop?
You mean like producer wise, or like people in the
Yeah,
show, like contestants?
producers, the
Producer
producers
wise,
specifically.
yeah. So I knew if I listened to them, I had a better chance of staying as well. So I was like,
Yeah,
okay, what do you want me to do? I will do whatever you want me to do. Cause like, I'm just here to have fun in Fiji while I'm here. So I
yeah,
did whatever they really asked, like the questions they would ask. I try to give them the best response to it. And obviously there'd be times like Emily and Harrison were coupled up, and like I'd have to go, go talk to Emily because like, why else am I sitting in the villa? Like I can't just not do anything the whole night, like just drink my wine and chill out on the couch, enjoy my
yeah.
day in Fiji. Like they're like, okay, who are we gonna talk to tonight? Like we need you to talk to somebody. And I was just like, well, Emily's the newest one, but I already know she's like really in it with Harrison, so this is just awkward. So it was just like, like you could just sense like if a girl was into you or not. Like, and none of them really were until like Taylor came in, and I was just like, I'm not gonna force anything to happen either. So I just
Mhm.
had fun with it.
Yeah.
That's like at the end of the day, I could have fun with it. And then there were some producers that I would listen to more, and then some that I would listen to like just their advice that they were trying to get me to do. Like, I don't feel
Sure.
comfortable doing that, but I feel comfortable doing this. I could see myself doing this as well. But if you're asking me to do something like something I would never do, I'm not going to do it.
That's interesting that
Hmm.
you're like, I know this person isn't going to possibly be into me, but I'm going to do this conversation where it looks like I'm pursuing them. Because I feel like people do enjoy, the missteps in Love Island as much as they enjoy the love connection. So it's like, oh, if this person's going after someone who's clearly not into them, maybe that'll get more people on your side for this underdog story and ship you and Taylor, who you met in Casa Amor, Taylor Smith, and you two are still together, I
Still
believe.
together to this day. I'm leaving
Wow.
tomorrow to go to Dallas, so I'm really excited for this weekend.
Oh, congratulations.
You're beating the
Beating the
odds.
odds.
Wait, she lives in Dallas?
Yeah, she lives in Dallas. I'm living in Minnesota right now. I'm going back to physical therapy school this fall. I'm going to finish school,
Oh,
get my
nice.
doctorate. Because, reality TV pays a little bit, but it's not like enough to sustain you till the next show. And it's like the next show could never happen. Like maybe Traitors is it. You never know.
The next show
No,
is happening.
don't say that.
Trust me, I want to be on the challenge. I want to be on Survivor. I want to be on Big Brother.
Yeah.
But it's just like, you don't know when. And it's like, I need a career that I can focus on when I'm not doing TV.
I mean, for what it's worth, man, we call this third wave reality TV. It's what's happening right now with shows like Traitors, with shows like Special Forces, The GOAT, House of Villains, et cetera, et cetera. All these shows that basically are taking players from other base games like Love Island, Big Brother, et cetera, and pitting them against each other in these various games. There are so many of those shows that are about to happen. Every streaming service is going to have 2 or 3 of those shows in the next like 2 or 3 years. You're going to be able to just run the table of them if you want to. Now that you came from Traitors season 2, which I think is one of the biggest third wave reality single seasons of all time, I think the world is your oyster at this point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I just want to make sure I could have a like healthy family life career.
Sure.
If it doesn't work out, because you never like cancel culture is a thing. Like I'm not going to say anything that would get me canceled, of course, but like you just never know in this environment. Navigating social media and stuff. Maybe even didn't say something and you could still get canceled for it. So it's just like being careful and like I just want a backup plan at the end of the day too.
Yeah, fair enough.
And like with that our third wave of reality TV, I think it's definitely coming because like you think of like AI and then like the screenwriters are worried about like losing their jobs. Reality TV, like you don't need screenwriters, so it's cheaper that way. You don't really need a director. You don't need side actors. You don't need background characters. You just need the people in the show to show up and film it.
Yeah, who will all do it for free.
They pay you on Love Island, right?
I can't really say how much they gave me, but I could have made more working my Dairy Queen summer job than what I made.
Damn, dude.
Love Island's paying sub Dairy Queen wages. This is outlandish.
Well, I also
Bachelor doesn't even pay people except the lead.
Yeah. Like so. I also worked like 60, 70 hours a week when I was working at Dairy Queen in the summers because it was like the busiest time of the year. I didn't have school going on. So I was getting that overtime as well. But I was definitely, I was making probably 1.5 of what I got paid on Love Island.
That's a lot of blizzards.
It's a lot of blizzards. And you think Love Island is like 24 hours a day getting filmed, like always on, mics on, like you can't have your mic off of you. So it's like a different experience as well.
And they're making more money off of you than Dairy Queen.
Probably.
Yeah.
You met Taylor in Cause More. I've seen so many seasons at this point that I always feel bad for the people who enter at Cause More because there's so many relationships who are already established and like you either have to break someone up or it just seems like a much more challenging position to be in. Did Taylor feel like it was hard to be held back until Cause More? What did she feel about that?
She had a really tough time because, they fly you out before the show and like, you don't know if you're going to be an OG. And I think they don't know if you're going to be an OG. They're trying to figure it out. They're trying to piece it together. It's like, when do we want to put this person in? Like, obviously I had my storyline and they probably saw me as an OG. They're like, this guy is going to be perfect. He's here for the right reasons. Like we could maybe even do a day one elimination. But I think they planned it for my character. They're like, this guy would totally self-eliminate day one. Let's do a day one self-elimination to get this.
You think they knew you'd self-eliminate?
I think they did. I think they wanted to do a day one elimination for like maybe like a season or two now. And they're like, this guy, like when they were doing the casting process, like this kid's going to do it. Like we can pull this off now. If we make him an OG, he'll probably do it. And it'll be a great story.
Wow.
I think that's what they wanted. Like, I think, like the production has like their characters that they want to fill and they want to tell these storylines before this show even starts. So like, okay, let's do a day one elimination. So we're going to need to cast somebody that would self-eliminate themselves for that. Like, so I think that all happens. But so we're out there before the show answering the original question with Taylor. And she was so they take your phone away too, because like they don't want you to have your phone, because if you're looking at public opinion, that might make you pursue someone else you normally wouldn't have, just for I can win $50,000 at the end of this. So you don't get Wi-Fi, you don't get your cell phone. And Taylor had Legally Blonde and like 9 other movies to watch every day for like 32 days straight. Like, and she was stuck in her hotel room because she couldn't leave her hotel room
A month?
for 32 days. And she was going to leave. She had a date in mind, and I think she was 8 days away from just leaving Fiji and saying, I can't do this anymore. So she had like, I think it was day 40.
Wow.
So they told her, and she's like, all right, I'm going into the villa. I'm not going to leave Fiji. But like, because you can leave whenever you want.
Yeah.
But yes, she was getting ready to leave
That's good.
Fiji.
God.
Dang.
It's very similar. They do that same thing to players on Bachelor in Paradise, which is now not coming back this year, but they'll fly everybody out. You don't know what order you're showing up on the beach. And in some cases, people literally get trapped in their hotel room for the whole thing, and they never even get to get on the show.
That's same with Love Island. Like, that's like,
yeah.
And they, for whatever reason, I had Netflix in my hotel room, and I got like a VPN and stuff. Like, I don't think they knew that, but like I got Netflix and Spotify. So I was pretty set. But if I had Legally Blonde and like 9 other movies that I had to rewatch every day and like not leave my hotel room, I would have gone crazy. And like they told me, just to let you know, like there are people that fly out every year and they don't get put on the show. Just warning you. So if you ever want to tap out, let us know. Like, you're free to tap out whenever you want, but because they're not going to hold you hostage.
Interesting.
Well, so that's one difference then from the Bachelor franchise, because they will hold you hostage.
Legally Blonde. God, I hope she like uses that somehow and gets cast in the musical or something.
It was so funny. She came in, and there's like times where you can't talk because like there's only so many cameras in the villa. There's only so many things. So like her and I would be having a conversation, and a producer would come out, "Hey, stop talking. You guys can't talk." So then she would just recite the Legally Blonde movie to me, like word by word. She had it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was like, "There's no way you know it word by word."
Impressive.
And she knew, like, okay, the camera's zooming in on a dog walking in, and like she knew every little beat by heart, like where the cameras were pointed, like the lines in the movie. It's so bad.
That is unreal.
I love that. I want to see a series of TikToks where she just recreates it.
Yeah, puts on a wig. How have you been finding being in a relationship with somebody who comes from reality TV, and that relationship is on social media, is very public?
You know, this is my first relationship as well, so it honestly hasn't been a real struggle for me, because it's like I'm not going to date anybody else. I'm not going to do anything stupid, like, you know, like I'm committed in this relationship, and it hasn't really been that hard. It's just like if I'm out alone, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I love you and Taylor," or if they just love me from Traitors. They're like, I get recognized from Traitors a heck of a lot more than Love Island. But if Taylor and I are together, like people are just like want a photo. It goes crazy.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Traitors, let's move on to it.
Okay.
Yeah, you signed up for Traitors before you even got your phone back for Love Island?
Yes, that is right.
You were
so
in Fiji?
We finished filming Love Island. They put us back in the hotel room in Fiji. So Taylor and I are in our own hotel room. And then the next day we wake up, we knew we were going to have a meeting with the executive producers from Love Island. And Taylor went to hers in the morning. Like they had everybody's ordered. I think I went last to mine, because Taylor went like 9 a.m. I went at like 1 p.m. And Taylor's lasted like 15 minutes. I go and I'm gone for like 30 minutes to maybe an hour. I can't remember how long it was, but it wasn't just the executive producers. They had someone from Peacock or NBC Universal there with me, asking if I wanted to go do Traitors in like 2 or 3 weeks. And I was like, I'm totally interested. I'm not going to say yes yet, because I still haven't talked to my dad. I have no idea how I was portrayed on the show yet. Like I'm assuming I was a fan favorite. I got all the way to the end and got third place. But like you never, like I could have been the most hated person there, and that's why they're asking me to go do Traitors too. Like,
yeah, are they casting me as a joke?
Yeah, like that was a little bit of a nerve. So I said I'm like 80% in. I want to. There was also the thing. I was living in South Dakota before I left for Fiji, and I was supposed to move to Bismarck, North Dakota after the show finished to go do physical therapy school, like I am doing now. And my lease was up in South Dakota, so I had to pay rent every month that my stuff was still there. So I'm like, I need to go back home get my stuff out of South Dakota, move it back to Minnesota, cancel my lease in North Dakota before I go do this show. So I had a lot of stuff to do, and I was like, I need to go home. I need to figure this out. And then I get home like a week later after that meeting, and they call me. They're like, hey, we need to know right now. I'm like, I'm doing it. And I was still getting all those other things done.
Jesus. I mean, for what it's worth, you obviously made the right decision to go be on Traitors. I think that Traitors season 2 is and will be looked at historically as a kind of inflection point for reality television. To me, it's kind of the thing that really crystallized Third Wave and made every other network be like, oh, we need to have one of those. And now you have Amazon's The GOAT. There's a bunch more that are in development on every streaming platform. And I think it was because of the season you were in on Traitors season 2. With all that said, I'm a big fan of when players take little items from their time in various games, little mementos. Do you have your murder letter, your death warrant?
I don't have my death warrant letter.
What?
I was in a mind of like, I was upset, like I wasn't thinking in that moment. Like I was like, God dang it. Like I knew I was going to get murdered, but I was more upset from the gameplay because it's like they have you wake up, murder, like, and then you have roundtable. It's like someone gets murdered, someone gets banished. And they changed the format of the show for someone else to get murdered. Or like the Traitors got to win, like, get like 3 opportunities. They got, whatever. Like they got another opportunity because like Peter declined. So I was so upset by that. I was like, I felt like we were finally getting the upper hand. I was playing my game of like hiding behind someone, so I wasn't the biggest target. And I was playing this great game, but because they did this sacrifice ceremony, then I was just like revealed as like the only gem in the room. So I was just so upset by the game changing, if that makes sense, that I wasn't thinking about keeping the letter. And then they also had a Traitors water bottle, like a Love Island water bottle with their names on it. And I forgot to grab that too.
Where is your murder letter? Those letters to me are like, I can't even, to me personally, it would be the most valuable object I would ever have in my life. I would have it framed. I would build a whole room around it, a shrine.
Yeah. And you know what? I wanted to keep, the first time I got murdered, I still went into the room and did an interview about who I thought the traitors were and who murdered me. And my thing was, I thought Parvati murdered me because I was going after her the night before at Janelle's banishment, and they never showed any of that. So they couldn't air my, interview of me getting murdered with the shield, because they wanted to protect Parvati still. But I thought Parvati was throwing Dan under the bus, like, hey, let's get rid of Bergie at this point before he comes after me after we get rid of Dan. I thought she was thinking like 2 steps ahead. So I thought Parvati wanted me dead before I banished Dan and then went after her. That makes sense.
Yeah, I read that whole thing that you put on Reddit about this exact thing. And it really got me going. I mean, look, I train players to go into Bachelor. I break it down like a game, and I'm literally training people using strategy to go into that show and do whatever they do in it. So Traitors to me is fascinating because it's all strategy. It's all game. It's all that kind of like psychosocial dynamic thing. And I really love looking at Traitors and trying to figure out what's real and what's part of the edit, et cetera, et cetera. So to that end, let me ask you this simple question. Is the time clock on the challenges real?
Hell no. Hell no.
I knew it.
That first challenge, I was in that water for at least an hour. I was freezing my butt off putting those puzzle pieces together. And the funny thing is, we're putting the puzzle piece together, and I hear Alan go, 12 minutes left, players, 12 minutes left with his microphone. And then we're still trying to figure out the puzzle piece. And then I hear Alan go, 15 minutes, players, 15 minutes. After he just yelled out 12 minutes left.
That's so funny.
Every time I'm watching it, and it's like the clock, every challenge gets down to the last 10 seconds, and then somebody crosses the finish line or finishes the thing or whatever, and I'm just like, there's no way this is real.
No.
There's no way the clock is real.
The challenges are so hard. I can't even follow what the challenge is on Traitors. I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah, they're very complicated.
Doesn't really matter, but
by far,
you said earlier that you were using someone as a shield. Is that Peter Weber?
Yeah, I was hiding behind Peter. I was like, oh, they'll murder Peter before they murder me. So then, and then I'll find another player to hide behind. So like that was like I was contributing to Peter's plans, but I wasn't going to be the one exposing myself like Peter was. Like, hey guys, I came up with this shield plan. Like I was contributing to it, but I wasn't making myself the target. Like that was my whole plan. Like oh, I'll be behind Janelle. And then I was hiding
Mm-hmm.
behind Peter. And I was like, whoever's next, I'll go behind Trishelle. Like, I'll get underneath somebody else. Like, my plan was to always be underneath somebody, not being the biggest target in the room. And that, stupid torchlight ceremony made me the biggest target because Peter was no longer there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was an interesting choice to have that ceremony. Did you watch? Were you able to watch season 1 before you went on season
Yes,
2?
I did.
Yeah, you have to
Who
at this
were?
point.
Did you have any favorites from that season?
I would say Suri. Like, I really like Suri. I liked
Yeah.
Kyle too when he came up with this awesome plan that the traitor was Cody and then he banished himself. Like, I love that. Like, guys, I know who it is. And then he didn't say anything till the round table and then totally got himself banished. Didn't say anything.
Yep.
Yeah. So I really like that play too.
How much did you look into at all? Like the game of Traitors is actually a game called Werewolf. It's like I think a mathematician
Mafia.
invented it. Yeah, some people know it as Mafia. Did you look at all into like strategies for that? Because there are deep online communities of people who play these games, and the math of it is like it's all online about what is the best statistical move to make in any given element of the game. Did you check any of that out?
No. So I played, in 2020, Among Us came out, and my
Yep.
roommates and I played Among Us. Like, we'd go to the bar and play Among Us. It was insane. Like, we'd get people to play Among Us with us at the bar. Like, we'd be sitting having drinks. And I played a lot of Among Us, so I kind of knew how it would work because it's kind of the same thing. Like, there's person murdering people, and then like, you have a meeting and like you discuss who it is. So I knew I couldn't lie, but I knew I could be a very contributing faithful.
Yeah, interesting. In terms of the production of Traitors, specifically like when they're shuttling people to and from the castle or anything even like that, the order of people coming into the room, how much does that play a part into your strategy of trying to figure out like, oh, well, who might be a traitor? Because I'm going to the hotel, but like Phaedra's not. Phaedra's still shooting stuff. Does that come into play or do they hide that pretty well?
They hide that super well. And I was nervous because I was the last one to leave the castle on the first night. So I was like, are people going to think I'm a traitor because I'm the last one leaving tonight?
Yeah.
So I was actually really nervous about that. But then Janelle told me they actually have the traitors leave first and then they shoot at a different location. So Janelle was using that, but I don't know if that's necessarily true. And she said that on another podcast as well. So I'm sure that's no longer the case being used.
Yeah.
Because
the game is
because they also told us in the rule book, if you watch Traitor season 1 and watch the order of people coming into breakfast, we're changing that up this year. We're putting traitors last too as well. We're not going to tell you, like, obviously they're not going to tell you like a traitor's coming in last today, but like they told us like, hey, don't use that because we will be putting traitors last. And so there was a time where Janelle said, I was last to breakfast today. I think it was the day of her banishment, I think it might have been the day of no, it was the day Ekin-Su got poisoned. No, it was the day before that. It was episode 3, the graveyard challenge. That's why she was fighting so hard for her shield, because she was last to breakfast. But I was like, you can't really use that anymore because they put that in the rule book that they're going to have traitors be breakfast as well. But
yeah, I thought they were shooting like multiple breakfast entrance scenes with like different people coming last. They only shoot it one way.
I think it's only shot that one way. But if you watch season 2 again, like Parvati comes in last, Phaedra comes in last. They changed it up. Like you can't.
Yeah, they really did.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of like production things at all that you think you can use to determine strategy?
So big one I used. We're doing the Scarecrow challenge. They're going to like if you've seen any reality TV show before, they're going to have a traitor in those questions. So that like immediately you can narrow that down to 10 players. Like there's the 5 questions, like who's the most popular, who's the most quiet, which was Dan. So like he was in there because like they want a confessional of him saying, is this going to reveal it? Because they always do it. Like Traitors UK season 1, season 2, US season 1, season 2. Like they're always putting the traitors in one of those questions because then they have that confessional of me like, oh, maybe I should change my strategy, but I never do either. So that was something I used. I used Parvati going into the coffin. I'm like, they definitely want a traitor like pretending to be like, oh my gosh, am I going to get murdered? Like they have to put on this complete act. I was like, there's no way they're not having a traitor get into a coffin. And it was just like, okay, it's either MJ or Parvati at this point because Ekansu just died. And I'm like, it's definitely not MJ. And Peter had the opposite thing. He's like, it's definitely MJ. I was like, bro, think about it.
Oh, Pilot Pete. We loved him so much on that season. And one of the things that I really like about Traitors is that it, at least for us, we're like huge Bachelor aficionados. It really lets you see who these people are outside of like the Bachelor machine, which is a very different version of Ari Leindyke was like this in season 1 as well. You just get to see so much of like who that person kind of actually is instead of the manufactured version of them in the show. Did you feel that that was true of you?
I felt like I had a lot more free roam in this show as well. Like I wasn't controlled at all, but also like I was on a love show. So like there's only one objective is like to find someone you can talk to and share like a romantic connection with. So like there's only one way to really go with that. With Traitors, it's like, oh, I can play this game however I want because production can't interfere with the game of Traitors. Like they really can't do anything. So that was a lot more fun. And Peter and I were talking about it too. Like, you know, sometimes you're forced to have conversations. You're not forced at all to have any conversations in Traitors because it's like that could affect the game. So that was really nice.
Wow.
That's interesting. Let me ask you this question. I am forever, there will be a thing burned into my brain of Peter Weber in his bedroom, shirtless, doing curls, pumping iron. Who comes up with these ideas for like what the players are in quotes doing in their bedroom while they're waiting on the murder letters and stuff? Is that players? Is that producers? Is it a mix?
I think it's a little bit of a mix. Like I remember doing the teddy bear one. Like they had a teddy bear for me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we'll do the teddy bear one. And like I decided to like really bear hug it. Like so you add in your own flavor. And I think I had another one that I did. Oh, I approached the door with my teddy bear when I went to get my letter, but then that one never aired. Like I was holding the teddy bear like scared as I was going to the door. And then that one didn't make the cut.
Oh no. That's terrible. Oh, the teddy bear on the cutting room floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that forced conversations thing is interesting because you're like, yeah, if you're the Bachelor, you're having a lot of forced conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's very overproduced.
Do you think that it is harder to be a traitor or a faithful?
It's harder to win as a faithful. It's harder to play as a traitor. Does that make sense?
Why do you think that? Because after all the analysis I've done, I think it is much harder to be a faithful in every capacity.
Being a faithful, you just have to go and hang out, have fun, don't worry about anything. And like as a traitor, you'd think you'd have to do the same thing, but you have to lie. Like you look at Kate, she was struggling.
Yeah.
Parvati was struggling. She like I think in her interview she said she was always like paranoid. Like she thought we knew, and we kind of did know, but like she was so like, what is the jig up? Like I'm so stressed out of like doing this every day. As a faithful, I was like, I don't have to worry about anyone like really thinking that I'm a traitor because nobody's gonna think that. What was I also gonna say? But with being a faithful, like you can get murdered at any time too, which really sucks. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to do like the buddy up approach with Phaedra. I don't know if you remember when Dan called her out, and I was like, I really do think Dan's calling out another traitor right now, but I don't want to vote for Phaedra.
Yeah.
And Phaedra and I have this amazing relationship. She can take me to the end, but I still got backstabbed in the end anyways because Parvati really wanted me dead after that torchlight ceremony. Because I was really working with Phaedra after that point too, and I was like, Phaedra's gonna carry me.
You're like, I'm gonna be protected by the traitor.
Yeah, because I was careful with the words I used at that round table. I was like, well, if Phaedra was smart, she would carry me to the end. Like, because I would trust her all the way to the end. I think I said exactly that because I was like
planting the seed.
Yeah, I was like, Phaedra, take me to the end. Like that's really what I was trying to tell Phaedra.
Oh,
at that moment.
That's so good.
Yeah, I was like, if Phaedra's smart, she'll take me to the end because I trust her. So I was really doing that at that round table too when Dan called her out. But
had you seen like Big Brother and Real Housewives of Atlanta and like any of these other shows people had come from? No. Oh, interesting. Because I would have freaked out when I saw like Janelle and Phaedra. I'd be like, oh, I'm over my head.
If I may, this is why I think it's harder to be a faithful. If you're a traitor, you only have to do one lie. That is, I'm not a traitor. And yes, there may be pressure put on you if you think people are sniffing you out and stuff like that. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to be a traitor, but I think it's easier than faithful because faithful, you have to tell two lies, basically, which is, I don't know who the traitors are, and I don't think you're a traitor. But also, you have to know who the traitors are. And like you're saying, you needed to basically partner up with a traitor to go to the end so that you could be standing at the final fire ceremony and throwing your pouches into the flames and then kick that person off. You have to maintain almost like a double identity as a faithful through the whole show. Whereas a traitor, it's just one thing. It's, I'm not a traitor while you're murdering people, And also,
It's one thing, but it's constant.
It's constant.
but so is
I don't know.
faithful. So is
I'm
faithful.
very
But,
uncomfortable lying, so it would be hard.
Traitors
The
also
thing
can't
is,
be
too,
murdered.
It's not just a week like the show makes it look out. Like we were like all 11 episodes. Like the first episode took like 3 days to film. So like you're holding
Yeah.
that live for
Wow.
3 days, and then like the next episode's 3 days to film. Then like episode 3 might be 2 days to film. So you're holding this live for almost a month. I think people forget that too.
Just mathematically, also though, like every faithful has 2 ways to get removed from
for
the show.
sure.
You can get banished or murdered. Traitors don't. Traitors can only get banished. And mathematically speaking, especially in the beginning of the game, but really all the way through the game, it's much more likely that the faithfuls are going to banish a faithful than it is they will get a traitor. So I just think that there are, and also the show, the way it's shot, there's so many benefits to being a traitor. Not only is it an easier game, I think, to play, you get most of the screen time because you get to go shoot your special things where you're in the turret with each other doing your murders and all that shit. And they're most of the time when you guys are doing, I think they call it on your show reality, when you're just in the castle shooting, in quotes, reality, talking to each other. Traitors are always going to get the bulk of those scenes because you want to see them together scheming about how, especially when they're doing like the poison chalice and stuff, you have to see the traitor walking around with that cup and who's she going to give it to and all this. Nonetheless, just my 2 cents on the matter.
I was also going to say, you get the traitors edit as well. Like they're going to protect you in the edit. They're going to make it look like you're doing a way better job than you actually are. Like,
yes.
I know Serene in season 1, like Rachel and Stephanie were trying to work a way to get her out, but they didn't have like the numbers to get her out. So like, it just wasn't in their power at all. But like, they never show any of that. I think they showed Stephanie when she got murdered. She said, "I think Cerene's a traitor," but like they like protect the traitors in the edit, making them look like they're doing a way better job than they actually are.
Yes,
that makes sense.
Absolutely
to do.
And I mean, you were kind of saying that in your Reddit thread too, that there were people being named as traitors that never made the edit because in any show where there's like an elimination happening, the edit pretty much always dramatically has to narrow it down to 2 people. One of these 2 people is going home. Who's it going to be? And it's always kind of a head-to-head combat, if you will.
They do that on Survivor as well.
Yeah. Like if you really wanted to go back, I think Phaedra was being mentioned back in episode 4, like the day Ekansu died. Like her name was being thrown out there, and then she murdered Tamara, and then her name was being even more thrown out there as potentially traitor. Like, why would they murder a housewife? Is she trying to get the scent off of her?
Right.
So like,
and that was never in the show.
Never shown. Like Peter and John were like, and CT were all following that trail.
Interesting.
So Ekansu came from Love Island as well. Was there anyone else who was asked from your season to come on Traitors?
Ooh, they might be on season 3. So I don't want to say.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Is there anyone? Okay. Is there anyone they haven't cast that you think would be good?
Ooh. So obviously, I want to see Taylor on it because I feel like, they gave her the RBF on my season of Love Island too, and then a lot of our conversations on Love Island, sometimes we'd have to redo them because at that moment, a lot of the camera time was Cassie and Leo getting back together after Casa. Like that was the focus. And Taylor and I would progress in our relationship as they were filming that. And then we'd have to go back and redo those conversations. Like that happened a lot. And we didn't come off as genuine as we were too. Like that was part of the problem there. So I'd love to see Taylor get another shot at reality TV just so she can show more of her actual personality is a thing. And then
I love that. So supportive.
Who else would I love to see? I'd love to see Imani. I want to see there's been, 2 Bachelors, a Love Island guy. I kind of want to see Love Island girls and Bachelorettes now. Like we've had our time. Like let's let the other side go or do one.
I agree. Yeah. Let me ask you this question specifically about that. These shows, like one of the cool things I think about the third wave shows, I liken it to mixed martial arts. It's like you take all these different reality players from different disciplines and you throw them together and you're like, what's going to win? Kung Fu or karate? Housewives or Bachelor, you know? And when you get to see those head-to-head moments, like when Phaedra and Pilot Pete were going against each other at one of those round tables, and obviously Phaedra says her famous line, this isn't the Bachelor, I don't have to kiss your ass for a rose. Like those moments are gold for reality TV fans. So let me ask you this. When you're in that environment, how quickly do you kind of self-separate into Bravo, the gamers, the love shows?
Yeah, that happened actually, I'd say pretty quickly in that environment. Yeah. Like you had your CBS reality TV. You had, Peter and I buddied up right away in Ekansu. Like it was us three amigos because like we all came from love shows and understood how that worked. And then you had your housewives grouped up or the Bravo people. So like there was just like, it felt like the house was divided like 4 ways almost. And like Peter, Ekansu, and I had the smallest little alliance right from the go. So yeah. I was having to work uphill the whole time.
I think that's going to be kind of the next era, I think, of third wave. No show is doing this yet, but I think some show will. I think it's going to be like you come in on a team, and those are the teams. There's a Bravo team.
I want to see like
CBS team, etc.
I like to draft up reality TV shows just like in my mind. And there was one where I was like,
as do we all.
Yeah, like there you get a team, like maybe 5 teams, 4 people or 5 people on each team. So there's 25 players, and like they do these challenges. Like maybe it's like a heist, so these guys have to break in, and like everybody has an assignment that they have to do, and whoever does it the best wins the challenge. Whoever does it the worst has to eliminate one of their players. And like you could do like Janelle's leading a team, and like there's a draft in the beginning of the show. Like I thought that'd be really cool to do. Like just you draft your own team and just go for it.
I think all of this is coming very soon. Let me ask you this. In terms of these kind of self-separations happening, do you think that Bravo, and we'll call it the CBS team or the gamers, because they're not all CBS. I would put the MTV people, the challenge and stuff in that as well. Do you think that they have a kind of misrepresented idea of the people that come from Love Island, The Bachelor, etc., as not being able to play these games?
I think, I felt like we were viewed as like the non-reality TV people from season 1. Like we were the Andy and Quentin, like we were
civilians.
We were viewed as kind of like civilians. Like we, wouldn't be able to like hold our own in this game. And I think season 2 definitely shocked a lot of people. Like, look at Peter, look at Phaedra, look at, like these people can actually do it. And then we also still had our MJ, Kevin, we still had our people too.
But I mean, season 1, Lizzie, have you finished season 1? I am going to,
no.
This is a little bit of a spoiler alert, Lizzie. Sorry. I mean, Ari made it to the finals.
What's
that to me? Ari Lyondike, who was a Bachelor in season 1 of the U.S. show, made it all the way to the finals. To me, that kind of solidified, like, that should make all of these people realize Bachelor players, love show players can do this. But I you saw what happened in season 2, and it did feel to me kind of like the love shows were like second-class citizens amongst these other players who came from like the games or the Bravo world.
But they're not, because where was the finale party? Sweet Nums and 747 Flyers house.
That's Peter Weber's mother
Peter's
and father.
Mom,
that's right.
Hosted the party, catered by Buca de Beppo. How was that? Everyone wants to know.
It was really fun. It was fun having everybody come together and just hang out one last time, because it's like that could be the last time we ever cross paths with at least one person in that room. You never know when the last time you're with someone, especially in like this kind of environment. It's one of my basketball coaches said, like back in middle school, it's like this team will never be the same again because someone's going to quit. Someone's never going to do it again. Like that's definitely going to happen. So it's like, I always embrace those moments together. It's like, this could be the last time I see someone here.
You know what, man? I had the exact same experience in high school baseball. My last high school baseball game, our coach, right before the game, sat us all down and was like, some of you guys are going to play college. Some of you may even go pro. But for a lot of you, this is going to be the last time you play this game in this way at this level ever again. Enjoy it, blah, blah, blah. And we went out. As they say, the athlete
Dang, sounds like you guys had
dies
good
twice.
coaches.
Well, I had some good ones and some bad ones. Don't get me started on the bad ones. Let me ask you about this. One more thing about Traitors. In the round table, when you guys are sitting down to do your votes, have the producers already sat with you each individually and kind of counted, like pre-counted your votes and talked to you about who you're going to go vote for?
So they don't do anything besides they come in and like you put your chalkboard on the table face down and they come and just look at it and they go around the table and you can't change it. That way they can start it with a person to get the closest, like, oh, it's 6, 6, 3, so that way it's like for TV purposes, it's built that way.
Okay, so they just look at your chalkboard. Why do the chalkboards sometimes have names that have been erased?
Well, I did that when I was voting for Larsa. I erased it.
Okay.
Because I didn't think Larsa was a traitor, but if you go back and listen too, I voted for her because I was the first day when I came to the castle, I was in the same truck as CT, and I felt like we had a closer relationship than I did with Larsa. And I had to vote out Larsa because she was gunning for CT, and I was just like, I can't vote out CT because him and I have like a little buddy system going on.
Interesting. So you cannot change it. Nobody ever changes.
Oh, so you can change it as many times as you're writing, but you can't change it. Put the chalkboard down and a person, like a couple of people from production come in.
And then is the chalkboard part before or after you have the big conversation?
Oh, it's after. Like
okay.
Like
so that's
Alan,
shot in real time then.
Yeah, it's shot in real time.
It.
Like Alan, like when we're done talking, like we can talk as long as we want. We could be in there for 2 hours, 3 hours, and then Alan will say his thing. It's not like the show is like the time for talk is over or whatever he says. Like that can go on. He lets us finish our conversation. Like that is a must.
Okay.
And
interesting.
He says that, then you do your vote, then you put the chalkboard down, and then production comes in.
Okay. Interesting. I was just curious if that was done in order or how much the producers are influencing it. These are for purposes of my own because I'm also starting to coach people to go into various seasons of Traitors upcoming. And so I just need to know how it all works. You know what I mean?
A couple last questions. Have you been following the Love is Blind lawsuits at all? Do you think there should be a non-scripted union?
So yes, but at the same time, you sign a contract before you go. Like one of the guys that's leading it, he's complaining like they took my passport, they took my wallet, they took this, they took that. And I knew all of that before I left for Love Island because I looked at the contract. It was like 50 or 60 pages and I read through all of it. And I knew exactly what I was getting into when I signed it. You know what I mean? Like, and it's like, if they're, so you know exactly,
what you signed up
if you
for.
actually sit down and read the contract like I did. Like I knew exactly what I was getting into, and like his complaints are stuff that I knew exactly. Like they told me beforehand, like this is what's going to happen, and they said this on Love Island too. Like, hey, if you guys aren't going to listen to us, like production can be like, we got plenty of people sitting in the hotel ready to get their screen time. Like, so it's like, just take the most of your opportunity and live it up because. I know it sucks. Like sometimes you have to work 21-hour days. Sometimes you're up for 27 hours, like doing reality TV. But it's an experience that no one else can have, and it sucks. But like the show must be completed in a certain amount of time. Like you can't, like people. This is their job. This is how much time they have. Like working at Dairy Queen. Like the longest shift I ever worked at Dairy Queen was 21 hours. So I've definitely worked the longest.
Jesus,
reality TV. Yeah. But
wait a minute. How is Dairy Queen even
don't
open
understand
21
what Dairy
hours?
Queen is.
Yeah, exactly. What is this Dairy Queen?
It was.
You're making so much money. You're working 24 hours.
No. But like I think there was a day on Love Island where I worked like 27 hours. Like that was the first day because like I left for elimination. Like they woke me up at like 4 or 5 a.m. Like, hey, you're going into the villa today. Congratulations, you're going to be an OG. And I was like, hell yes. And then, I didn't probably go into the villa. I was the last guy to walk in. So I was probably like 3 p.m. when I walked in. And then I remember I got eliminated probably around like 11 p.m., 12 p.m. So I was only in the villa for like 9 hours that first episode. And then I left. And then I had to sit in the van because they had to get the girls from the hotel. and bring him in, and I wasn't allowed to see him. So I had to go sit in a van outside, and then they brought him in, and then I could go see him. And it was probably like the sun was coming up again when I was going into the hot tub with the girls.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So that was my second time seeing the sunrise that day. But like, you know, I knew that going in, and I was just appreciating the whole experience.
Cruise of Deception.
Cruise of Deception.
You're going to be on this. Peter Weber's going to be on this. A bunch of people from your season of Traitors are going to be on this. What can you tell us about how the game mechanics of this are going to work? And is it similar to Traitors?
Yeah, I would say it's similar to Traitors. We can't call it Traitors because it's not a Traitors cruise. It's Cruise of Deception.
Yeah.
From what I understand, there's going to be 80 people. I can have 160 people on my team, but that's going to be split into 2 teams. And there's going to be 80 people playing Traitors. We'll probably select like 8 people to be Traitors. So there's every 10 people, there's 1 Traitor. And the Traitors are going to get to be able to murder like 5 people a night. And then there's going to be 5 banishments a day. So, and we'll be doing like a giant game of Traitors like that. And we'll narrow it down.
How are you going to pick the Traitors?
I don't know if I'm allowed to pick the Traitors, but if I am, you know, I hope I'm not, because I have friends coming on the cruise, and I don't want them to be like, "Oh, you have to pick me," and I'm like, I don't, you know, I don't want that on me if I don't pick them, because like I also want the people that I don't know that are fans of mine to have the same opportunity to be a Traitor. So I don't want to just go pick up a friend, you know.
That's very nice.
So
maybe a random draw.
Yeah, so I'll just let somebody tell me like who to pick. Just like draw the 10 names out of the hat, or like the random name generator that you have on your cruise ship or whatever. And
I think that's the best way to pick Traitors, because then it's like, oh, well, they're not automatically going to have, you know, a Big Brother
or
player,
a Survivor player,
whoever the likely suspects are.
Yeah, I definitely think that going forward, that's definitely what they need to do, is just random name generator, or just everybody's got a number, random number generator, or whatever you want to do. Draw it out of the hat.
I totally agree.
That makes sense to me.
They have to randomize the Traitors.
I wish you luck in the PT school, but I think you're gonna have a long career in reality television.
I sure hope so.
I could definitely see you on Survivor.
Yeah, I would love to do Survivor. I'd love to do Big Brother. Reach out, guys, if you're anybody listening from Carsten.
Available.
You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so where can people follow you on your journey? Sign up for the Cruise of Deception. I noticed your team is not sold out yet.
No, it's getting close though. I think I'm sitting. Well, I shouldn't say close. I think I'm like 130 out of 180 right now. So there's still 50 spots available, but it will sell out before the cruise leaves, which is nice. But you can follow me on Instagram at BergieLicious35. TikTok is BergieLicious35, and then I have a YouTube channel, and it's BergieLicious35 as well. And all the links to my other socials are in my Instagram.
Fantastic.
I love that.
Bergie,
not my Bergalicious.
Thank you so much for talking with us about all this stuff. And like Lizzie said, we wish you nothing but the best of luck as you move forward into this new third wave world, where I think you're going to do very well.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I had a blast.
Please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast. Please get a friend to listen to us, and then please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast. Please get a friend to listen to us, and then please rate this podcast. Please review this podcast. Please get a friend to listen to us, and then